Hi, it's Filo. Welcome back to my channel. In August, I read 4 very hyped books and one that nobody has heard about. Starting with Divine Rivals, everybody and their mother is talking about it. It's a YA fantasy romance, the first book in a duology. We follow Iris, whose brother just went to war, a war between gods, and she uses her typewriter to write him letters, hoping that the letters can reach him through some sort of magic. However, her letters reach Roman, her rival at the newspaper, because they are journalists, so the premise is very good. It starts with their respective background stories and their jobs at the newspaper, which reads more adult. So you think that they are like 25, but you're told they're 19. So what they're doing is less believable, if that makes sense. But their correspondence is cute, and I love the magical realism with the old typewriters and the story behind, and the kind of Narnia's wardrobe magic. Unfortunately, I felt like the plot evolves to a more YA romance, and then it's kind of rushed in the end. Also, the book seems to end 100 pages before the end. It felt like the author is building a plot twist just to end the book on a cliffhanger and prepare you to read part 2. Though I have to say that the cliffhanger is awesome. Rebecca Ross' writing wasn't as lyrical and great as I had heard. It was good, but not amazing. I have to say that I loved the mythical aspect of the book, even though it was light. I kept waiting for more, and it seems that there will be more in book 2, but am I going to read book 2? I'm not sure. On the other hand, I've heard that her other book, A River Enchanted, is really good and more atmospheric. So I might try that one since I enjoyed The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern so much. Oh, and one last thing, there's no Steam, but it's definitely not closed doors either, so keep that in mind. For the layout of my spread, I wanted to emulate a newspaper with the big header, the author, and writing in 2 columns on each page. I also included stickers with pictures of typewriters. And finally, I gave this book 3 stars. Then I read The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a YA mystery series, and I was told that it's reminiscing of Knives Out, which I loved, so I had to read it. And I have to say that everything I heard about this book is true. Here you follow a young girl who's in a difficult situation with no money and no family except for one sister. But she suddenly inherits the immense fortune of a multi-billionaire she never knew, while his family is left with only crumbs. So she's basically trying to figure out why is she so special, And while it's true that it starts very similar to Knives Out, then a lot of mysteries unfold. The will stipulates that she has to live with the family for a whole year, so she gets to know everyone, and it's super entertaining. All the characters are great, and aside from the big mystery as to why her and why nobody else, there are also a bunch of little mysteries surrounding each and every character. The characters are very well written, and there's even a little bit of romance, but it's kind of in the background. And it's a series with 4 books. The 4th book just came out, and I'm sure I'm going to read them all. Then I also saw that she wrote another series before this one actually. It's a YA mystery too, and it's called The Naturals. So I'll probably try this one too. As for the spread I created for this one, there are a bunch of elements you find in the plot, but of course there are no spoilers whatsoever, as always. Finally, I happily gave this book 5 stars. The third hype book I read this month was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. It's another YA fantasy romance because I was left wanting more after Divine Rivals, even if I'm not a big fantasy reader. And I was also convinced to read it because of this beautiful edition. Here we follow Evangeline Fox, who learns that the love of her life is about to marry her stepsister. Desperate to stop the wedding, she strikes a deal with the wicked Prince of Hearts, who, in exchange for his help, asks for 3 kisses to be given at the time and place of his choosing to the people of his choosing. So apparently you don't need to read the first series Caravel before this one, except I think that you will hate the Prince of Hearts if you don't, because I didn't read Caravel and now I have absolutely no intention of reading it, and I hated him. The plot was so random and all over the place, it almost seemed improvised. The twists were too convenient and I couldn't like any character. You would expect Evangeline Fox to be this trustworthy, loyal and smart girl, but she's just basically dumb. She falls in love with every man she crosses paths with and makes only bad decisions and repeats them again and again without learning anything at all along the way. She also likes being treated badly, apparently. And I get that the Prince of Hearts is supposed to be this sad romantic figure, charismatic but wicked, but he does nothing right. He's never nice. I couldn't like him at all. And now the writing. It was supposed to be whimsical, but the metaphors made absolutely no sense. It was ridiculous. And finally, the ending didn't trick me into reading the second book in the series, The Ballad of Never After. So Never After is when I'm reading this book. So finally, I gave this book 1.5 stars because it was a page turner and it was entertaining, but it didn't make sense at all, and it kind of put me in a bad mood, so I should have DNF'd. The fourth and last hyped book I read in August was Scythe by Neil Shusterman. It's a YA dystopian trilogy set in a perfect world where humans are now immortal. So their only way to die is to be gleaned by a professional scythe. There you follow Citra and Rowan, who are chosen to be apprentice scythes. They are forced to learn the art of killing and have also to learn to endure the responsibility of choosing their victims. This made me believe again in YA literature because it's clearly well planned and well thought, and the author also addresses his audience as young adults capable of a deep reflection on serious subjects. And this book was thought-provoking from beginning to end. There's a bit of everything: mystery, dystopia, romance, and very high stakes. With the dystopia, we get a very interesting story about the meaning of life when it's eternal, the nature of death, what happens when humans get too much power or too much control. Can they play God? Is there a possibility to assume such responsibility without corruption? I also found all the characters interesting, and the story was good and well crafted, even if sometimes it felt like the author filled some plot holes on the go, but I didn't really mind. So I gave Scythe 4 stars, and it's a trilogy. I'd love to read it till the end. And finally, the last book I read in August, you've probably never heard of before. It's El bosque sabe tu nombre by Alaitz Letheaga, which could be translated as The Forest Knows Your Name. And when I say could be translated, it's because it hasn't been translated yet, but Alaitz Letheaga is quite a famous author here in Spain. The story is beautifully set in the 20s in the north of Spain, in a big mansion between the forest and the sea. Here we follow Alma and Estrella, 2 gifted twin sisters. Alma can talk to the dead, and Estrella is just finding out her gift. So there's magical realism, but also folklore, which I loved, and also historical context as you follow them during years. The descriptions and the atmosphere in this book was amazing. Something I love about Spanish literature is when the characters are shaped by the nature around them. They're a bit wild or very wild, and you don't necessarily love them, but they're definitely unique. Unfortunately, apart from that, the dynamic between the characters was a miss for me. Men were always incredibly bad and stupid. They never did anything good, and it also seemed like their evil justified somehow that of the women. I missed some nice character I could like, because if everybody is evil and nothing is never their fault, I feel like it gets a bit too long, because it was a thick book, over 600 pages, and in the end I didn't really care what happened to them. Basically, I was just there for the vibes and not really the story. So in the end, I gave this book 2.5 stars. And now let's flip through those pages. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and tell me about the last books you read. Thank you so much for sticking till the end, and I'll see you very soon in another video. And until then, enjoy reading!